All right, today we are going to answer a question. So the question is, keeping key elements, including the product image, title, price, delivery timelines, add to cart button, etc., above the fold is considered a best practice. Do you think this is relevant for mobile devices as well? And specifically, do you think above the fold is relevant on a mobile device? So this is a very interesting question, not only because as a merchant, it's probably one of the most important questions for you to solve. If you think of your product page on a mobile above the fold, that is the view on your entire store that gets the most views. The single view that gets the most views. So it's very important in a mobile focus world now to nail this section of your site. And I have taken a lot of research around this to see how are the most popular product pages above the fold. Do they adhere to these principles? And see if this above the fold thing is a myth or not. Now a little bit of theory behind this. On desktop, we usually tend to think of the fold before we really learn to scroll. So over time, scrolling has becoming a bit more of a habit. However, the fold still definitely exists. So a lot of people, they prefer to pick something from the first view. And if their thing is not in the first view, they will either leave or get frustrated or give up hope or whatever. Now on mobile devices, this is a little bit different because we are very used to not having things on the first view. And if you think of the whole mobile experience, it is based on scrolling. So you are going through the pages with scrolling, just like you read news articles, use Facebook, use Instagram, whatever. It is a lot of scrolling. So there you already have this phone in your hand and you can just scroll with your thumb. It's pretty easy to scroll. It's actually very easier to scroll on a mobile compared to desktop. So that is something to keep in mind. And I think largely we are talking about a bit of a myth when it comes to mobile fold being super important. And we can see this from different examples. So if we think of the common thing, the common misconception that the price should be visible above the fold. Well, let's take a look at that a little bit deeper. So there's two ways for people to arrive to a product page. They can either land there or they can flow there. In these kind of cases, let's say you have a store and people are navigating from the category pages, for example, and then they go to the product page. Well, they already saw the product price on the category page. If they're coming from the front page, they saw it on the front page. So in these kind of cases, they know the price. So it's not going to be a surprise when they scroll down and find it out. So in that kind of case, it's not coming as a surprise. Now, the other scenario where people are landing here, many times they would still know the price. Let's say they are landing from an email. They previously visited the product, for example. Now they visit it again. They have an idea. They are landing from an advertisement. Then they probably wouldn't have an idea. But you are going to be able to show it pretty quickly. Everyone knows these days where the price is going to be. So it's not like people are not going to find it. Just as long as it's on a typical position, it's not going to be a surprise. Now, where I think it actually matters more than the price is with regards to the add to cart button. So if we think of this traditional mobile behavior of if you've ever seen recordings of people using sites on mobile, it will be pretty hectic up and down scrolling. So locating yourself on the page or that user is very important. There we have a few things that we can do, of course. Clear sections, clear headlines, enough white space to break it down, and then not having sections that take more than one mobile view. Those are just a few. But one of them is a very prominent add to cart button. So when you are doing this kind of behavior, you will be easily able to see that. Now there's a few different examples that I can share with you which solve this. So traditionally this can be considered a little bit of a problem because it's kind of there high up the midway of the page. So the way we prefer to solve it is just having a sticky add to cart button. And it can be here on the bottom. And you can also include the pricing there. So this way, this information is visible from the first view forward. Now, if the pricing is already more or less obvious, you can also just have the add to cart button completely fine as well. What you don't want to have is a situation where people would go and get lost on a long landing page or a long product page without their add to cart button. You always want to have it there. When they are ready to make that decision, you can just have that happen. Now, in some cases, you might have product options where it can scroll up them instead of adding to the cart. So there are a lot of different options there that can be used. But for mostly, it is a myth to have all of those elements above the fold. So if you take a look at this site, for example, you have to scroll quite a bit, 1.5 screens to get the price. On Amazon, it's around like 1.5 screens again. In some sites, it's a bit longer, but you always know where it is. Like you just like scroll a bit and you're already expecting it. So from that perspective, it's not a huge usability issue. So as much as this site try, they have short headlines, small font, very, very tidy selections here. None of them actually achieve this, where all of this would be above the fold, especially if they are using product thumbnails. A few things there. It is possible. So for example, Luxy here has made it happen, where they have their product images on a slider like this, and these dots are actually on top of the images. So this way is as condensed as it can be. You have your headline limited to 1 row, and then you have your pricing. But still, they didn't manage to fit the add to cart button here above the fold. So it is near impossible. Don't feel bad if you don't have it above the fold. Rather, focus on usability, focus on having those buttons be findable easily, and you're going to do it just fine. It should not be your singular focus. So if you think product thumbnails make sense, like in this case, they definitely do, don't follow the luxyhair.com example and just go and hide them. All right, hope you liked that. Very practical with a lot of examples. Make sure to subscribe to the channel though, before you go, since I put out these kind of videos all the time and you're going to like it. Now, of course, you can also like the video. It optimizes your algorithm to provide you better educational e-commerce material to your YouTube feed. So you will be wiser in the future and more successful as an e-commerce merchant. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to work with me or my team, you can go to growgurus.com/apply and let's take a look at your store and see if we can help you out. Thank you.